Well, hello everyone. Uh, let's start our video conference number 30 of Phase A. Method to awake the consciousness. But consciousnesses objective and subjective. Well, it's been told that we have 97% of subconsciousness and only 3% of consciousness. Alright? So let's make analysis here. The 97% of trapped, bottled consciousness that we carry inside of our ego is slept. Right? And is in each one of the psychological effects that formed our ego. Right? As soon as we disintegrate any type of psychological effect, it releases a certain percentage of consciousness. Right? So the freedom of our essence or consciousness would be something more than impossible if we don't eliminate our psychological defects, our egos. It's impossible the freedom of our own consciousness because the 97% of our consciousness is trapped, bottled inside of each one of our psychological defects. The greater the quantity of psychological defects disintegrated, the greater self-consciousness. The fewer the quantity of psychological defects disintegrated, the lower the self-consciousness. So the awakening of our consciousness is only possible through the elimination of our ego. Dying in ourselves is possible to live, to feel gradually, grain by grain, little by little, our own awakening. Alright? And some other thing important to understand here is that this 97% of consciousness is slept. That 97% of essence is subconscious, is slept due to the reality that is trapped, bottled inside of each one of our psychological defects. Is subconscious, is slept. with the practical tool of self-observation, immediately we light, we put in activity our divine spark to start the process of knowing ourselves. For instance, let's put an example. A newborn baby. What is incarnated in the newborn baby is his or her divine spark. Never a newborn baby has ego, alright? And this divine spark is what gives him or gives her its beauty, right? The different psychological defects that come from previous human existences are going around the grid, right? But they cannot enter into that organism, into that physical body, into that newborn, due to the reality that this newborn baby hasn't formed the personality yet. Until this baby doesn't form its personality, those psychological defects formed in previous human existences could not enter into the physical body. Right? That's why we say here that it's something with urgency. It's a need, literally, to become our subconscious conscious. This is our main goal in each one of the different human existences we have. If we honestly and seriously want to become conscious people, it's necessary to become our own subconsciousness in consciousness. And that's only possible through the work on ourselves. Dying in ourselves psychologically, it means the elimination of each one of our psychological defects, because each one of them has trapped inside a specific percentage of essence, of consciousness. So let's continue with our example. As soon as gradually this new baby born gets older, gradually, alright, this person, this baby, this boy, this girl, this teenager is forming his personality, alright? As soon as this person forms the personality, the different psychological defects enter into that female or male organism, right? And gradually we appear in the world with this horrible ugliness that characterizes us. But the beauty of a newborn baby is due to the reality of inside of that person, inside of that baby, is only formed, is only existing the divine spark, the essence. And it gives to her or to him its beauty. Alright? Many times this baby cries, screams, because he sees with his own clairvoyance, due to the reality that is only formed inside of him, the divine spark, he sees all the different psychological defects that are going around the crib. That's why he cries or he screams, alright? And unfortunately, adults see him with mercy, as if, for example, he or she is hungry or thirsty, when in reality he cries, he screams, not always, usually always, for sure, not always. He only cries or screams because he is observing, he is seeing the different type of psychological effects that try to enter into him, right? But many times, yes. This divine spark gives him clairvoyance, total self-awareness, self-consciousness entirely, right? We are not affirming here, let's be clear with something else. We are not affirming here that the 100% of essence is already incarnated here inside of this person, of this physical body. No, but it's enough with these 3% of essence to be absolutely consciousness. Right? That's very important to understand as well. Because obviously, the rest of the 97% of consciousness of this newborn baby is trapped inside of his or her ego already formed in the previous human existences. Right? It's necessary to clarify this point. Right? Only with the divine spark lighting inside of him or inside of her, it's enough to see adults as we are. Perverse, horrible, with all those psychological defects controlling us, and this newborn baby is capable to see us that way, because the divine spark sees everything clearly, right? Gradually, when this newborn gets older, gradually he is forming his personality, and gradually, little by little, the different types of psychological effects that form the ego are entering into that physical body, into that psyche, right? And yes, there is a time when we are teenagers, usually, that we appear in the world with this horrible ugliness, right? And we slept on the streets in our society, believing that ourselves are the best when we are not. Right? What happened when this person dies? 3 different things go to the grave. During the rest of the human existence, this person forms more personality, and usually the person creates more psychological effects. Revenge, fears, infrasexual psychological defects, resentment, pride, envy, due to the different circumstances that he or she usually lives, right? But as soon as he or she dies, 3 different things go to the grave. Number 1, yes, the physical body. Number 2, the vital fund. And number 3, the personality. Directly, the vital fund, the organic vital fund, is connected to the disintegration of the physical body. Alright? So it gets weaker as soon as gradually the physical body is disintegrating itself. Alright? And this one, the organic vital body, is in front of the grave always. disintegrating itself at the same time this one is disintegrating itself. What happened with the personality? The personality is that wrong called ghost. Unfortunately, and usually, commonly nowadays, we are afraid of ghosts, right? But they are no more than personalities. They are no more than personalities. But unfortunately, we are scared of it usually. Not always, obviously, but usually. When ghosts are only personalities, and the personality of the person, of this human being, goes day by day to the same physical places where he or she used to go. Right? That's very important to understand. So unfortunately, from existence to existence, we've been creating more and more psychological defects. We're weaker and weaker and weaker due to the fact that we haven't understood the need, the urgency of deleting gradually, little by little for sure, our psychological defects to become conscious people, right? That's why we insist always here in the need, in the urgency of transforming, of becoming our subconsciousness in consciousness. And it's only possible through the elimination of the psychological defects in order to release the other 97% of subconsciousness to make the transfer here. Right? Because unfortunately, this is the path we walk each human existence. Right? That's amazing and probably unique beauty of all those newborn babies are due to this fact. They don't have ego, right? Because they haven't formed their personalities yet. As soon as they gradually form their personality, gradually the previous psychological effects from previous human existences enter into that physical body, into that psyche. Alright? And all those psychological effects, all that subconsciousness cover the divine spark. And what governs us is the ego and never else our divine spark, that 3% of consciousness. Right? That's pretty important to understand. Dying in ourselves is possible psychologically, obviously. Psychologically. Dying in ourselves psychologically, it's more than perfectly possible to become unconscious people. Right? So usually all those newborn babies see adults as they are. Unconscious, cruel, perverse. Right? Because this divine spark gives them the possibility of clairvoyance, that unique beauty, to see clearly what's happening beyond the physical body of adults. Right? And yes, all those psychological defects go around the grave, waiting for their moment to take control of that human machine, of that physical body, and of that psyche, to continue with the destiny. No matter which is the destiny, they try only to fulfill the destiny because they are already programmed. Right? That's very important to understand, to analyze. Always is reflection here is pretty important and essential. Now, what is the method? With all these previous explanation, details, points, aspects, what is the method to awake our consciousness? Let's talk about it, please. As it's been told, unfortunately, our consciousness is divided, is split in two different parts. Our divine spark and the other 97%, which is bottled, trapped inside of each one of our psychological defects, of our ego. Right? It's necessary to rejoin our consciousness with correct procedures, working gradually and properly with the tools that will let us feel the change. Okay, the method is as follows. And definitely this is something to live, this is something to practice with. Alright? Because this is not something about theories, concepts, etc., etc. This is something to live inside of each one of us, literally, accurately. This is a daily process of purification. The first step necessarily is to awake our divine spark. It's possible when we put ourselves in an inner state of self-observation. When we start observing our inner thoughts, emotions, instincts, desires, sexual intentions, etc., 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 we start with this process of self-observation. Immediately, our divine spark, our essence, this specific 3% of consciousness is awake immediately. With this one already awake, the next step will be to start with the process of the transfer of the rest of the other 97% of consciousness, which is trapped inside of the ego, to make it stronger, to make it clearer. Right? With, well, first of all, self-observation. Right? Which at the same time is to detect the detection of our inner reactions, talking emotions, thoughts, sexual desires, and so on. Right? Then, please remember to apply the inner petition to the Divine Mother mentally, seriously, sincerely, from the bottom of our hearts, as follows. My Divine Mother, please delete me this fear. If at that very moment that you work with your self-observation, you detected a fear, any type of fear, or envy, pride, sexual perversities, etc., etc., etc. With the self-observation, and immediately then the inner petition to the Divine Mother, to that female part of God inside of each one of us that has the mission of releasing ourselves of our own ego, of all those horrible and negative creations from previous existences, will be releasing ourselves gradually, but it's necessary to understand that it's not possible just by ourselves. We should work daily, continuously, with a superior power that will give us the possibility of releasing ourselves gradually if we work with self-observation and the inner petition. putting ourselves in this inner state, immediately we light the divine spark. And then put our entire attentions, try to pay attention to your inner world, yes, with the self-observation. Immediately, as soon as you detect any thought, any emotion, immediately there comes the inner petition to your Divine Mother. My Divine Mother, please delete me this fear. If there is a fear at that very moment, my Divine Mother, please delete me this pride, this greed, this laziness, this whatever you detect with your self-observation sense. And you feel the releasing immediately. And I will be always insisting on something here. Please do not believe me, but prove it. It's unique. It's amazing to feel the change immediately. As soon as you are feeling any type of fear, envy, rancor, resentment, hate, sexual perversity, anything, all those desires of, for example, drinking alcohol, doing drugs, any negative thought, right? Depressions, any type of depression is cured with this process, the process of dying psychologically. Prove it. Don't believe me, please. Immediately, as soon as you detect your depressions, your lower emotions, etc., you make the inner petition mentally to your Divine Mother in a very simple and serious way, with that sincere intention from the bottom of our hearts. My Divine Mother, please delete me this defect. Please eliminate me this one, that one, this one, this one. From instant to instant, as much as you can, you will start the releasing of your own consciousness. And you feel the change immediately. Right? Then gradually, the magnetic centers will be balanced. And in the astral experiences, when we fall asleep, gradually, little by little, our inner being will guide us, will lead us to know how gradually we go balancing our magnetic centers until the day, until the moment that we are ready to start with the process of sexual alchemy. Because all this released essence should be put on the dorsal spine, vertebra by vertebra, to create the inner bodies, right? To know the rest of the dimensions of the universe. Sexual alchemy is basic, is transcendental, to really awake our own consciousness. But first of all, before of entering in the mysteries of sex, of supra-sex, is better to change the way we think and the way we feel. And that's possible through the elimination of our psychological defects that formed all our ego. Remember, please, when we start with the process of eliminating gradually our psychological defects, our ego, internally in astral experiences, when we fall asleep, our inner being and divine hierarchies will be guiding us, will lead us during the rest of the process. And they will let us know when we are ready to enter into the mysteries of sex. Remember, transmutation of sexual energies are only possible between a man and a woman. Working with sexual alchemy, never ejaculating and never getting the orgasm, but transmuting your sexual energies, in that also called white tantra Or, yes, sexual alchemy will be creating little by little, gradually, grain by grain, vertebra by vertebra, our inner bodies. And at the same time, the gravity center will be established from the personality to the essence, to the divine spark. Nowadays, we've been wasting and using our emotional energies, mental energies, sexual energies, instinctive energies, and so on in the things outdoors, right? In the things that this society shows us, all right? But gradually, we'll be making the transfer of the gravity center to understand that yes, it's necessary to live life in this third dimension. It's necessary to work to pay the bills, right? To buy food, to have fun in a correct way, in a decent way. Yes, it's necessary to be in interaction with the rest of our society, relatives, neighbors, etc., but working in ourselves continuously, right? So the gravity center won't be anymore exclusively in the things of the personality, which is something that passes and remains back in time, but working better for our essence, working in ourselves to get the self-realization, right? So we'll be making these things, the things of the external world, the things of the personality, in a matured way, in a correct way, with more wisdom, with more consciousness, and not only and entirely wasting time and energies believing that things of the personality, the things of this society are the unique, important, the most important in life, right? Because we've been making different types of analysis, studies, reflections on the need, on the urgency to work in ourselves, all right? And gradually, little by little, we'll continue being natural and better people, but internally we'll be releasing as much as we can from instant to instant in this inner state, self-observation, and as much as we can, making the inner petition to our Divine Mother to release the ego. And at nights, all these released essence will be put vertebra by vertebra in the transmutation of the sexual energies to create all these inner bodies. But definitely, for sure, we'll be continuing being natural, normal people, good people. And yes, people with more wisdom, little by little. But definitely, this is a daily purification process, right? And our gravity center will be established here. This is a long process. This is a long life process that takes infinite patience, gradual discipline, practice. All right? In the very beginning of our stages of purifying ourselves, it'll be a battle, like, for example, between David versus Goliath. But little by little, that releasing of consciousness definitely will put our divine spark lighting more and more and more day by day. For sure. It takes practice. We won't talk here about time, but practice. Because only practice makes perfect. Alright? Right away, currently, we have an active personality. One of the goals is to become our active personality in passive personality. A passive personality is the personality of the inner being, right? Being perceptive, being alert of ourselves, will give us consciousness. If we keep our active personality, we'll be wasting too many energies. Sexual, emotional, mental, instinctive, motor energies, unnecessary. Alright? Gradually the process, the transfer, will be done. Right? There is also another tool to continue with the transfer of our consciousness, and that one is called meditation. Please, if possible, try to check to analyze conference number 22. In conference 22, there are the different analyses and explanations about the meditation practice. It'll give us more releasing of consciousness gradually. Alright? If we honestly want to become ourselves, wise people, it's necessary to learn to meditate. Video conference number 22. Check it if it's possible for you. Analyze it, study it. Because authentic and real meditation is also part of the process of the method to awake our own consciousness. Alright? I guess there is something else too, which is called it's a sacrifice for mankind. When we talk about it, sacrifice for mankind is only specifically to share all this information for free with the rest of our mankind, without exceptions, without excuses. The more we give it for free to the rest of the people, without exceptions, the more inner impulse, the more inner strength we'll achieve, we'll deserve, we'll get to continue with the rest of our own self-realization. It's very important to understand, to know that capacity of reflection, of analysis of ourselves, of each one of our psychological defects, will be deeper, deeper, and deeper. And it will give us definitely the possibility of, in reality, the comprehension of ourselves. If we seriously want to comprehend others, first it's necessary to learn to comprehend ourselves. And that's possible when we start the releasing of our own consciousness. And it'll give us at the same time more capacity of reflection, of analysis, to finally comprehend. When we start comprehending ourselves, the change of our actions will be a reality. but in a natural, in a spontaneous way. Without showing an appearance, but acting from the heart. Alright? It's unfortunate that if you remember the example of the newborn baby, when that person finally dies, the ego, if it wasn't deleted, the ego goes into the fifth dimension, and when divine law, divine hierarchies give to that person, to that inner being, a new physical body, the psychological effects previously formed in that example we already gave here, will rejoin in a near future. That's unfortunate, but it's a reality. Right? They will rejoin the psychological effects to the new physical body in a future human existence. Yes, that's why it's with urgency. This is something literally with urgency to start the process of awakening our own consciousness. Alright, because right now, actually, our consciousness is split, is divided into two different consciousnesses, right? The objective one and the subjective one. It's something more than possible to make the transfer. Alright? Feel the change, feel the process. It is something unique. To feel the change inside as soon as we detect any type of fear, envy, resentment, hate, pride, trauma, depression, etc., any type of negative thought, for example, and if that, in that very moment we apply the inner petition to our Divine Mother mentally, seriously, from the bottom of our hearts, we'll feel immediately how the capacity of reaction of that specific type of psychological defect decreases immediately, and how the essence was released at the same time immediately. That's something to live. That's something unique. Thank you very much. Thanks for attending again to this new video conference, and have a nice day.